Hey, this is John Lee Dumas, the founder and host of Entrepreneurs on Fire. And if you're wanting to learn how to embrace change and navigate through disruption as a leader, then listen to the Leadership is Changing podcast with my good friend, Denis Gianoutsos. He's prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Leadership is Changing. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change. This is taking your leadership to another level by finding the balance between executive excellence and personal well-being through stories that inspire real change. It's time to adapt in our fast-moving world when leadership is changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos.
Denis, the terms we use, I was a military brat when I was young. So I grew up in a military family. I ended up in the military. I was an M1 tank commander in the Army and really when I left the military and started in my corporate career, which obviously led to a lot of what I'm doing today. Yeah. I ended up in the rental industry for about 16 years, overseeing sales and operations. So dealt with a lot of that in large organizations in the rental industry. The company Melissa and I run today, Rollins Performance Group, is now in our 10th year of business somehow. I don't know how that happened, but so we've been doing this for going on 10 years where we work with people just to develop their communication skills and sales and leadership.
Yeah, great. And I know Melissa as well, wonderful couple listeners who always give so much to people, which is brilliant to know and experience as well. Chris, this is all about leadership is changing and so forth. So how did you get into leadership?
I love this question, Denis. And it's funny, just how'd you get into leadership? Here's why I love this question. I think as simple as it is, it's so often misunderstood. I would have answered this question so differently 30 years ago, right? Because here you were in the military, became a tank commander, you're running and gunning, getting results, getting things done, leading. But as you and I both know, at that time, a lot of it was really positional leadership, what I thought was leadership. Probably when I look back at it though now, I can't say, oh, I got into leadership as a young soldier in the Army and leading groups of people. I really didn't get into leadership until probably 15 years, maybe 15, 16 years ago, when someone handed me a copy of the book Good to Great, which literally was the book that changed my thinking. And I thought, oh, wow, I've been doing this wrong. I've been achieving great results, but that's not leadership until I can help my teams begin to achieve great results. So what I thought was 30 years ago when I got into leadership really was a journey for me that began probably 15, 16 years ago.
Yeah, and I think that's the key word that you just used there, right? Which is it's a journey. And for listeners, it's not about you taking a red pill, a blue pill, and you're the leader anymore. Right? Chris and I know that it is a journey, right? And you are going to learn things and you're going to evolve over time and bring different things as well and different scenarios, different situations. But you're right. It's about an awareness of actually understanding what you bring to the table and then how do you take that and move forward. So really interesting to see. And I love the book, Good to Great. It's a great book, right?
Absolutely. A classic, no doubt.
A classic. And listeners, if you haven't read it already, we would highly recommend that you go and read Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. It's a wonderful book. And notice what Chris said. It helped him change his thinking. And be aware, listeners, as you go to read that book, it will change your thinking, but it's a wonderful one to check out for sure. Now, Chris, you may have several here, but I'm going to ask you to think about what's your one leader. Now, this person could be alive or from history. Who's your favorite leader and why?
I know, Dennis, we could probably rattle off some greats that we really think about. But funny enough, when I really think in my personal life of those that impacted me the most, and I know you say, who's your favorite? I would do a disservice if I didn't say the two people that really impacted me personally and professionally the most. The first really was my first sergeant when I was in the military, because in fact, I found him just a few years ago, right back before the day and age of social media when I was in the 80s and the 90s. And we connected and hadn't spoken in years. And I told him, I said, I owe you so many things today that when I was a young guy and you'd ride my case, I probably was mad at you half the time for, and I did not know what you were helping me do. But he refused to allow me to perform at less than my potential was, even if it was better than other people's around me. He said, you're better than this, and I'm going to push you. I didn't appreciate it then. I'm so appreciative of it now. In my corporate career, when I transitioned, probably the greatest mentor I had was a VP of mine, and we still talk occasionally today, who really helped me begin that shift in that mindset, as I talked about, from understanding, hey, Chris, this is not about you. In fact, one day he actually said to me, Dennis, hey, Chris, this is not the Army. Your employees do not have to come back to work tomorrow morning. And I thought, what? I was mad when he said it. And then I said, oh my goodness, what a light bulb moment when I had to learn that, they don't have to do this. They choose to follow us. And only when they choose to follow us can we truly be leaders. Without their influence, there's no way I would be where I am today.
Yeah. And that choice is really amazing. But you've mentioned a few times that word about mindset. And in my introduction of you to our listeners, we talk about the inbox ideas and concepts to achieving the out-of-the-box results. And I think a lot of the inbox is around the mindset. Would that be right?
Oh, totally. It's the foundation. When I often talk to people about their map to achieving sustainable results, the M in my map is the mindset. If the mindset is not right, you've lost before you've taken the first step of the journey.
Yeah, awesome. Now let's talk about mindset, and it's something about you personally, because I really admire what Chris has just done recently, listeners. He has gone and lost weight, and he has gone and actually becoming this, what I call a corporate athlete, whereby he's done things, but a lot of that probably would have been around the mindset as well, Chris. Do you mind sharing? I've just already said to the listeners what's happened here, but I think it's just a really important thing for us, because I think a lot of leaders need to be in a position whereby they are fit, they're in a really good shape, because I don't know many high-performing leaders.
Dennis, I was fit all my life. Again, from the military time, always been an exercise guy, everything else. But unfortunately, just over a period of time, as Dennis, we don't wake up, flip the switch, and decide to do this. It creeps up on us, right?
Yes.
And I was so busy running our business, taking care of my parents, who we were taking care of for a while. They're gone now, but we were doing all that. And funny enough, Melissa had shared some pictures with me one day. She said, oh, I took these pictures while you were up I was doing a training. She's like, yeah, I thought you'd see these pictures I snapped of you while you were up there today. And I went, no, we're not putting that guy up on the website. And I said, what the heck happened? It happened so slowly, you didn't even realize it happened. So yes, I made a decision that said, how am I going to encourage and challenge people to be high performers when I look at myself and say, am I being authentic and true to what I'm challenging them to do? And that was 70 pounds ago, right? This year I've dropped 70 pounds and I'm back to my ideal weight, back to what I was years ago. I'm back doing my insanity workouts and all those crazy things, but I feel better. I have more energy. And truly, I believe it helps me show up and serve my clients at a higher level as well. And I'm about to be a grandfather. Let me say this, Dennis. Melissa and I are about to be grandparents. I know we can actually officially announce that now here soon. So our son and his wife are pregnant with our first grandbaby, and it's going to allow us to be present as they grow up as well.
That is so special. Fantastic. Congratulations. That's wonderful to hear that you and Melissa are going to be grandparents, and that is very special. And huge congratulations on that. So for our listeners, 70 pounds in the US, but for kgs, it's about 31 kilograms as well. So that is massive. Now, you think about it, team, when we used to travel around the world, when we used to do that, you think about a suitcase would average between 20 to 23 kilos would be a suitcase. If you take 1.5 suitcases, that is what Chris has released. And it's amazing. So you're so right. It does come down to that, and it's huge, right? So, yeah.
I love that you just said it, how much I've released, right? I do tell Melissa, I refuse to lose it. We are not wired to lose as human beings. In fact, I often say God did not create us to lose. He created us to grow and expand. Therefore, we will always subconsciously seek to find something we've lost. I said, let that go, find health, find vitality, find energy, find the ability to be, like I said, fully present at the highest level so that you can now serve people better than you ever could at the point before. And it's funny when you said that word, that's part of the mindset piece. I know people say, it's just a play on words. I don't think it is. I think it's a mindset that's critical.
EOS implementer. What do we mean by that?
Yes, great question. As I was running a business, I was really struggling with how to create a vision and alignment with my team about where we wanted to go and how we wanted to get there. And luckily at that time, I just happened upon the book by Gino Wickman called Traction. If your listeners have not heard of it, I highly recommend picking that up. And it's a great place to start. So EOS is basically a way of harmonizing and orchestrating all the moving parts of your business. So it's an execution model. It's a way of running your business more effectively and efficiently so that you can really focus on leaving that to the science in the background. So you can really focus on the artistry of what you love to do and are best at. And I liken it to like your cell phone. Like you've got an iOS on your cell phone that kind of runs in the background so you can do all this crazy stuff with your cell phone now. The same thing's true. EOS, once you get these tools and disciplines primed and working for you, it's a system of execution that runs in the background so you don't have to think about it. You can really think about the strategy of your business, about where you want to go and how you're going to get there. So I'm actually not only we call ourselves implementers instead of coaches or advisors, because really it's about implementing the set of tools and principles into a business. That said, I've also been an EOS client and on both sides of the table. And I'll tell you, it's an incredibly rewarding journey on both a business front and a personal front for leadership. Looking forward to digging into that conversation with you.
Yeah, fantastic. And I love it. So iOS is around for the iPhones and things like that. And yeah, so EOS, is that Entrepreneur's Operating System?
Oh, you're so good. You are so good. It is. It's the Entrepreneurial Operating System. You got it.
Awesome.
I don't know if you just intuitive. Dennis?
Yes, I thought, oh, wow, which one is it? Okay. Yeah, cool. I really love what you've just shared there too, because I think the implement versus the terminology coach, it's a bit like becoming a goal setter. People go, oh, should I set goals? I said, no, let's talk about being a goal achiever. And they're like, oh, that's because it's a totally different mindset, right? We're going to go out there and achieve goals because people can set goals. That's all good. People can actually have an operating or do things in business. But I think I love what you say there in the sense of it's actually helping them do what they do in the background so then they can get on with their artistry. And it is an art in what a lot of people do. So I think it's important.
Well, the difference is there's a place for coaches and advisors. There's a place for that. I'm not saying that there's not. What I'm saying is if I'm telling people what to do, that's creating dependency for them to need me. And my job is to lessen that dependency and to teach them to be what I jokingly call Jedi Masters, right? I want them to be leaders. I want them to be seen by their team as leaders. And if I'm the one that's the answer person, they're going to be constantly feeling dependent on me for that. Whereas if I empower them through this learning of the dynamic around leadership, that they've got the answers in themselves, right? It's just a good facilitator or implementer that pulls them out.
Yep.
Just pulls those answers out. So that's the difference.
And I think that's what leadership's about. It's not to give them the fish. It's actually to teach them to fish.
Yes, you got it.
Yep.
100%.
Yeah, so I think that's right. And listeners, I think that leaders aren't doing this enough. And there's actually an episode I did recently, Emily, which is called, because I do 2 interviews a week and I'm also then doing a freestyle version. And it's called the Ask Denis episode. And it's about, the actual title of that episode is actually Ask, Don't Tell. And it's about asking them questions to bring out what you just said and facilitate that rather than saying, hey, here's the answer.
100% agree. It's something that we teach as a part of this experience. The question to statement ratio when you're working with your people should always be a minimum of 2 or 3 to 1, that you're asking more questions than you're talking, right?
Yep.
So the fact that you get that right out the outset here is huge.
Yeah. Sometimes we get a little bit of a clue in life. You've got 2 ears and 1 mouth. Hello. And it might help to understand we need to listen more. But I don't think it's just listening. It's actually really being present and listening to what people are saying and, in fact, sometimes listening to what they're not saying.
That is critical. So I learned this early in my leadership journey that I was not a good listener. If I'm being completely honest, I would think 2 steps ahead about what people were saying. And what did it for me was Stephen Covey's seek first to understand.
Nice.
Then be understood, because it's not just about listening. That's passive. You've got to actively be mining for understanding and then coming together for really what that means in terms of mutual value agreement.
Yep.
And that's the difference between leading and managing. Managers will just tell you, right, the expectation. Leaders create an opening for the person that they're working with to come in and join them. And then they get to have their hands in the clay where they feel like they're actually taking ownership, right? That creates an opportunity for empowerment that changes the discipline of accountability from the leader having to own holding someone accountable, which is frankly a misnomer, to then putting that sense of accountability really on the other person and then wanting to hold themselves accountable.
Yep.
So this dynamic shift that you're talking about is really powerful. And once I got that, wow, I saw the performance of my team go 10x.
Awesome. I want to ask the question very soon about how did you get into leadership? But before we go there, I want to just ask you about the book that you've authored, which is around Growth Junkies Unite. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Thank you, Dennis. For all of us, there's periods of evolution and revolution, and growth doesn't happen in a straight line. We talk about that with kids. They have growing pains. We all go through that. And I was going through one myself, and it was really a time of regeneration for me. And so this book was really foundational for me being able to pull from what I knew intrinsically, like it was all here internally, like
Yep.
I just needed to pull it back out again. And then in the course of realizing that, sharing it with others, that we all go through this part where we need an invigoration to our learning journey. And in my mind, you're at either one end of the stick or the other. You're either growing or dying. And I'd rather be at the growth end of that stick. And so for me, this was a chance to really share the tips, tricks, tools. So it's taking this distilled view, like a Reader's Digest view of all the business acumen and tools and things like that, and distilling it down to a few simple nuggets that can help people with reinvigorating their growth journey. And the reason why I call it Growth Junkies Unite is that, again, there's a tribe of us out there that really sincerely love this part of humanity, that we're here on this planet to help each other. And with EOS, one of our core values is help first. And so literally that's what this book is. It's my gift. If towards the end, I'll give you the VIP code and those sorts of things, but there's a free toolkit in there. It's packed with lots of great nuggets. And again, it's one of those things that is meant to be something that helps someone else get unstuck, right? Feeling like they're trapped, because that feeling can really suck you in and pull you in. And this is meant to be one of those catalyst things that can unlock that for you.
And I think the pandemic has actually made people feel like they're locked. They feel like they're stuck. And we're now starting to see people trying to get out of there and do other things in life, and which is pretty cool to see.
Great resignation. People are like, I'm not going to stay stuck. They're taking ownership of that. I think it's a good thing.
Yes.
It's also challenging as a business leader, right?
It is. And it's a different mindset. And I'm seeing it's quite interesting because I'm coaching quite a few coming out of the corporate world into their own businesses. And they're going into their entrepreneur. They were already entrepreneurs and within the organization. So they have that want and that hunger for it, but it's never packaged in a way that they were expecting it, or doesn't come always the way that they were thinking it would work. And it's like what you're saying with the growing pains, right? With the kids and so forth. It's the same thing. And we all focus at what? Just to jazz it up a little bit more and give it a little bit more excitement. Let's throw in COVID as well, just to see how you stand up to it, right?
Like we needed a new challenge, right?
Yeah.
One where there was no handbook, there no rule book,
no
one to script this for us, no predetermined, here's how you're going to get through this. And it's Dennis, I'm with you.
That's very cool.
I'm an engineer by education. I've spent my entire career focused on developing and bringing new energy technologies to market. During my career, I've worked in research development and product development. I was an associate director at one of the U.S. Department of Energy national labs. I led the gas turbine product lines for General Electric. I led Fuel Cell Energy as a publicly traded company, and I've also worked in solar solutions companies. So my career has always been about taking innovative energy-related technologies from concept to commercialization.
Everyone loves a leader with lots of energy. That's a good thing too, right? So
It is.
yes. Yeah, it's very good. Awesome. Hey, tell me something. How did you get into leadership?
It didn't happen through any deliberate plan. Anytime you're bringing new technology from concept to commercialization, there are always unexpected surprises. The earlier you are in the development and commercialization of technology, the less time and money you think it's going to take, because you just don't have enough information yet about the technical, the manufacturing, the commercialization challenges. So I found my way into leadership roles largely as a result of being on teams that face challenges, bringing new technologies to market, and being personally willing to take the initiative and getting the team through the process of identifying, evaluating, and implementing solutions, and then being willing to be accountable if the solutions didn't deliver what was needed. So when you are openly working to enable and facilitate your team's success, it just leads to more opportunities to lead bigger and bigger groups.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so I think one thing for our listeners here is that actually put your hand up. I think if you're there in teams, and a great opportunity for you to develop as an individual, as a leader, would be to put your hand up and say that you want to be willing to do things. Is that what more or less what you're saying here, Dan, right? You've gone to
It's what it really comes down to. It's not just being willing to put your hand up, but to really have an idea on how you can help the team be successful. because you've got to be willing to say, there's something I can bring either in terms of my experience base, my tool set or whatever to help the team solve a problem and think about how is the team going to succeed, because you all win if the team is successful.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. Okay, cool. So just not just putting your hands up, it's also being in there and bringing your value or bring some value to the table and doing things. Dan, you've mentioned a few things here, well, one thing several times, and it's about implementing solutions and so forth. A lot of people come to the leader at times with the problem and try to take the monkey, if I can put it that way, off their shoulders onto the leader's shoulder. How important, or what is one or two things people should do when they go into their leader with a problem? What do you think they should be doing?
I think no leader enjoys just getting a data dump of here's the problem, because a lot of times they're not close enough to it to really understand the context as well as maybe the people that are on that team. What you really want to do is say, hey, here's the problem. Here's my thought on what I think we should do. I need your advice. I need your counsel. Is that going to work? Or what should we try to do something different? Because it also helps the leadership identify who's the next generation of leaders. They might have an idea that won't work for any number of reasons, but what is somebody that wants to see the team succeed. They're willing to craft solutions. They're not just handing the problem off to somebody else and say, please solve this for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very good. I like that, Dan. I think a lot of people should come to the leader with, okay, here's the scenario. Here are one or two or three solutions. This is the one we're recommending and why. Because I think it's good. And it's a great learning process for people too. I think the big word that I want to emphasize here that I'm hearing Dan say is execution. It's all good to talk about things, but actually executing it and delivering on that is really critical for everybody and all organizations.
Yeah, it's absolutely essential. One of the worst things that a leader can do is not make a decision.
Oh, yeah.
You're never going to have all the information but the importance of making a decision, being willing to acknowledge it wasn't the right path, need to change direction is important. But the worst thing you can do is just sit there and say, I don't know what to do.
Oh, I love it. It's music to my ears because I think you're so right in what you're saying. Leaders not making a decision, nobody wants that. Come on, we've got to make a decision. I think what we're saying here as well is that a lot of leaders want to make the right decision. We don't know all the time whether it's going to be a right decision. Make one, and then you can always adjust, right? And move forward.
Exactly.
Yeah, cool. Very good. All righty. Now, this is an interesting question here because you may have been asked it a lot before in your career, and it could be somebody who's alive or from history, but who is your favorite leader and why?
Great question. It's hard to pick one because we've had so many in our history, but if I had to think about one that just really stands out to me, it'd be Abraham Lincoln. He is someone who came from very humble beginnings. He lost his mother at a young age. He was alienated by his father. He was largely self-taught. He became a lawyer and a great public speaker. He got elected to the state legislature. And he went on to become president and lead the country through one of its most fragile times. And he led based on his values and his belief in what is right. And he made decisions that at the time were terribly unpopular in many parts of the country, but he stayed true to his values and he fundamentally changed the course of our nation.
Yep. And the values, the beliefs, that's strong. That's a strong foundation to have behind somebody to lead on that, lead from that, but also probably to lean on that as well. I think it's important.
It is, because you think about the scenario that President Lincoln was in, there's no way he had enough information to analyze a whole bunch of scenarios. He basically had to say, what do I think is the right thing to do? Do I trust my values? Do I trust the information I'm getting? And can I chart a course forward here that is ultimately going to lead us to a better place?
So if you were on a park bench, I should say, wrong way around, park bench, sitting down there with Abraham Lincoln, you happen to be there and you both got a coffee in your hand, what would be one question you would like to ask him?
I would want to know, when did he make the decision to actually emancipate the slaves? Because we see a lot in history about when that happened, but I suspect that in his own mind, he had made that decision much earlier than when the action was actually taken. And what he was looking for was, all right, do we have enough support? Are we going to be able to get through this conflict and ultimately land at a place that is going to create all kinds of turmoil economically for the South, but ultimately is where we have to go to be a better nation? And I suspect that because he had such deep-seated values, that very early in his presidency, that was probably his plan all along.
Yeah, would have been, just imagine being in his mind to understand what he was going through, he was thinking, and what a massive decision. And good on him for standing up with his values and his beliefs to go ahead and do that, which is brilliant.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Leadership is Changing with your host, Denis Gianoutsos. Each week, we and our guests provide information and insights through exploring leading change, inspiring executives and leaders to adapt and lead a bigger game in a fast-moving world.